Hey beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you're new here, make sure you click that subscribe button. I would love for you to join the family. On this side of the internet, we talk all things abundant living because I believe that you were created for more. So today we're going to talk about discipline. We're going to talk about how to keep promises to yourself, how to do what you say you're going to do, and how to basically just plan for success. I know that a lot of us struggle with discipline, and I know that a lot of us haven't mastered it, right? So we want to be more disciplined. It sounds good in theory. We really don't know how to do that. We make promises to ourselves we don't keep. We set goals that we really don't believe we even can achieve. And at the end of the day, we end up feeling kind of hopeless and kind of like we can't obtain the things that we want to obtain. But that's not the end of the story. You definitely can. It just takes understanding discipline and then implementing discipline. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And y'all, I know that some people are just innately more disciplined than others. I've learned that, but I don't think it's because people were just born that way. I honestly think it's because the people who are really disciplined have a really big why. They understand their purpose and they're not willing to settle on that. And they don't want them to be the reason that they don't achieve their goals. And I feel like everyone can get to that point, even if everyone isn't at that point. But one of the first things you have to do is understand your why. Like, why are you doing whatever it is you want to do? Who's going to be affected by that? Who's going to be impacted if you don't do what you're supposed to do? Are you honoring God in what you're doing now? I think just answering those questions and understanding your why can literally transform your whole life in so many different aspects. Because I feel like that's what separates people. It's people who understand their why and they're not willing to settle. Like, they're just not willing to settle. They're not willing to let anything get in their way that they can prevent or they can do. And people who may be a little like wavering on their why. They're not really sure. Maybe they'll get to their why in a few years. But I believe that we all can be disciplined and we all can have that really strong why and we all can go after all that God has for us. And that's what I hope that you get out of this video. So let's start off by talking about why discipline is so important. I think we all know that most things that we want in life don't just happen by chance. And a lot of things that God is calling us to aren't just going to fall into our laps, right? They're going to take some kind of work. So honestly, if we aren't disciplined and we don't have the fervor and the will to do certain things, we aren't going to live in the fullness of everything that God has for us. And we aren't even going to live in the fullness of like our capacity while we're on this earth. And I think something that always strikes me is that every time people interview older people, like on their deathbed, they always have so many regrets, right? They're like, oh, I regret I didn't spend more time with my family. I regret I didn't start that business. I regret not joining this community. They have like so many regrets. So my whole thing in my life is I always say I'd rather be disciplined enough to achieve my goals than to look back and regret why I wasn't disciplined enough to achieve my goals, right? So I think it's just really important to have the characteristic of discipline and really go after what you want in life. Not be complacent, not just like kind of go along to get along, but always be striving for more, because that is the beauty of the life that we have, right? And that is really what abundance is. So honestly, it takes discipline to get to where we want to be in life and to get to where God is calling us in life. And it's so, so important so that we don't end up getting to the end of our life and regretting everything we didn't do. So I think that the solemn truth for a lot of us is that our lack of discipline is holding us back. So I want you to do this for a second. I want you to think about like your future self, right? So for me right now, I have a few different goals. So whenever I'm struggling to do something, I literally ask myself, like, would my millionaire self do this, right? So just stick with me. So for example, if your goal is to be really healthy and eat right, work out, you can ask yourself, like, would my healthy self do this, right? If your goal is maybe to one day be a CEO of a company, you can ask yourself, would my CEO self do this? So for me, I sometimes ask myself, would my millionaire self do this? So maybe your goal is to like invest or leave an inheritance to your kids, or maybe your goal is just to be really, really faithful with the Lord. So the question would be, would my faithful self do this? So I want you to think about whatever your goal is. It doesn't have to be like a 30-year goal. It can be now. So just think about that goal and think about some of the things that you're not disciplined with, right? And just think to yourself, like, would my blank self do this? And I think sometimes that can have us kind of put into perspective all the things we are doing or the things we aren't doing that are hindering us from being where we want to be. So for example, if I'm struggling to like work out and I really want to be healthy, I'm struggling to work out and eat healthy and all these things. And maybe I'm contemplating, I'm like, oh, I could watch this show or I can go to the gym. So I have two choices and I might ask myself, would my healthy self binge the series right now or would my healthy self go to the gym? because my healthy self is who I want to be. So in order for me to become who I want to be, I have to build the habits of that person now. And a lot of us don't think about it like that. We're like, oh, we'll get there. It's not important. Like, I have time. You don't know that. You really don't know the time you have. So you need to think like about who you want to become. Not that you should always be chasing that next person, but just like in actuality, we do have goals that we want to achieve, right? So who do you want to become, and would that person do X thing? And I think that would really put things into perspective, because sometimes it just kind of will show you, like, for example, if I say, would my healthy self go to the gym or watch the show? Well, obviously my healthy self probably has a gym routine and it's probably really consistent. So she would go to the gym, but maybe I choose to watch the show, which is totally okay. But at that moment, it puts into perspective, like, okay, right now I'm not being disciplined or making the decisions I need to become that person. And at least you have a realization of that. It doesn't mean you have to beat yourself down about it. But I think the first step is like realizing like, oh, there's a problem here, or, oh, I'm not doing this thing, but at least I'm aware that this is what I need to be doing, right? So that's just a little practice that you can do, like, would my blank self do this? And then it would show you what areas you are lacking discipline in now that maybe you want to start building discipline in to get to where you want to be. I think another very important thing to note and just to realize when you're doing the exercise and just thinking about discipline is that a lot of us don't keep promises to ourselves. And I think that is one of the biggest downfalls of people just in general, is that we get mad when other people don't keep promises to us. So if someone says like, hey, girl, I'm gonna be over at this time, and then they just flake on you, you wouldn't consider them a good friend, right? If God made promises to you and spoke something to you and then he just never did it, and he never fulfilled that promises, he wouldn't be considered a good father, right? If my husband said, hey babe, I'm gonna do this, like, I got you, I promise it's gonna get done. Also, let your yes be yes, your no be no. But if they say like it's gonna get done and then he just doesn't do it, I'm gonna be questioning like, how much am I a priority to you? Like, you said you're gonna do something, you didn't do it. You've been getting my hopes up and then not being able to fulfill the things you said you're gonna do. I'm gonna start questioning your character. That's how we look outwardly to other people who say they're going to do stuff and don't do it. People that don't keep their word. We look at them like, dang, that person is not trustworthy. I can't depend on that person. So let's turn that back inwardly to ourselves. Sometimes we don't keep our own word. We tell ourselves we're going to do stuff. We make promises to ourselves. We set goals, and then we don't even do the action to achieve those things. I want to be very clear that sometimes the outcome is not up to you. It's just not up to you. You can do everything you need to do, and sometimes the outcome is just not up to you. But the actions to get to your desired outcome is totally up to you. And that's what I wanted to take accountability for. I wanted to take accountability for those actions and think about the characteristics that we may look down on other people that we might be portraying to ourselves. And it doesn't feel good. Like, I don't like when I'm not honest with myself. Like, I don't like when I say, hey, Nicole, like, this week we're going to wake up really early and we're going to spend time with God every day. And then I like sleep in all the time because I went to bed really late. Like, that doesn't feel good, because at the end of the week, if I'm being introspective and looking back, I'm like, whoa, I didn't do what I said I was going to do. And it's not because I couldn't, it's because I didn't prioritize it and I wasn't disciplined enough to do the habits to make that happen. I want to be known to my future kids and to my husband and to my community as a woman of her word. That is very important to me. Like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Okay. So I just want to be known as a woman of her word. And I have to make sure that to myself, I am known as a woman of my word to myself. So if past Nicole said something, future Nicole needs to be able to depend on past Nicole and be like, she said it, she's gonna do it. So we need to have that kind of energy where we are keeping our words to ourselves, which is so easier said than done. But I'm saying all this to get you guys to think about, okay, what does it look like to be disciplined? Why maybe am I not disciplined? Do I even believe I can do what I say I am making these promises to do? And if not, like, what needs to kind of switch on in my head for that to happen? Okay, now we can talk about how to become more disciplined, right? And kind of steps and things you can implement to do that. The first thing would be to be really honest with yourself, right? So be very, very honest with yourself on the areas where you lack, the areas where you have strength, and just the areas that you kind of feel hopeless. Like, okay, God, like, I need you to help me. And it's okay to go to God for help. It's okay to go to other people for help, have accountability partners. Statistically, it's been proven that you will accomplish your goal more if you have an accountability partner and if you say it out loud than if you just keep something to yourself. So needing accountability or needing someone to help you is not a weakness at all. It's actually a strength. Like, you're strong enough to do that. But I want us to be really honest with just being honest with ourselves. Like, what areas in my life do I struggle with discipline? That's a question to ask yourself. What would it look like if I didn't struggle with discipline? Next, the next thing kind of goes in with that is, do you believe you can accomplish what you're trying to accomplish? We know that our minds have so much power. Like the Bible talks about renewing our minds, so much power, y'all. Do you literally, like, can you fathom being disciplined in whatever area it is, right? Whether it's finances, whether it's health, whether it's a relationship, whether it's consistency at your job, can you even fathom being disciplined in that area? And if you can, then at least you know, like, okay, I believe in my own self. Like, I believe it's possible. So if I believe it's possible, then it probably is possible, right? Like, if I believe I could do something, I probably can do it, unless you're just crazy. But sometimes it takes a little delusion to hit our goals. So if I believe it's possible and I believe I can do it, then odds are that I probably can accomplish it to some degree. And then you can start doing the work. But for a lot of us, we set goals and we say we're going to do stuff that we honestly don't even deep down believe we can actually do. Like somebody might say like, oh, I'm going to lose 30 pounds. But in their mind, they already have plan B. They're like, I'm going to hit that 15. Like, you don't even believe you can do what you just said you're going to do. So you like, just stop. You're not going to accomplish anything that you don't believe you can do. You already are planning plan B. Oh, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. I'm going to quit my job in a year and go full time. That's great. But do you believe that? Or are you just saying that? Like, are you just writing that on a New Year's resolution? Or do you actually believe you can do it? Have you seen it done before? Do you know where to go? Maybe if you haven't seen it done before, like someone you can look up to. Do you believe God called you to do that thing? Or are you just doing it out of like selfish ambition? These are all things you need to just, one, to be honest with yourself about, and then two, honestly look and say like, do I believe I can accomplish that? Because if you do believe you can be disciplined in whatever area it is, then you can. And that's just a great place to be, because I feel like that's kind of where a switch goes off, where it's like, I can do this. It's not going to be easy and I'm probably going to fail a few times, but like, I got this. When you get to that place, I'm telling you, it's kind of like something just like, I don't know, like a top just pops and you're like, oh, there's more, like, oh, there's more to accomplish. Like, you really can do it. So yeah, you just have to be honest with yourself. That's one thing. And then the next thing is that you actually have to believe that you can be disciplined in whatever area that you're struggling with discipline in. And I will say, I feel like discipline is like one of those things that kind of goes across the board. Like, if you are a disciplined person in one area, it can transfer to other areas of your life. Or at least that's how I've seen it done in my life. Like, when I put my mind to something, baby, best believe we're going to try it. And we're really going to start building habits to get to whatever that is. So I believe that if you're disciplined in one area, it's going to transfer. So you can, if you really, really are struggling, you can maybe focus on one area to build discipline in, pray through that, build habits through that, really kind of focus in on that. And you're going to see how your whole life starts kind of going down the trajectory of being disciplined and actually becoming the person you want to become and elevating in that way. As you see that you are accomplishing what you set out to do, you're going to grow confidence. And that's such a beautiful thing. You're going to grow confidence and be like, oh, I really am that girl. Like, I really can do this. And when you grow confidence, that discipline just kind of flows through other areas of your life, because you have seen that you can accomplish what you put out to accomplish. And you have seen that you can be disciplined. Like, it's possible for you in your own way, and you've done it before, or you are doing it. So that confidence pushes you forward, and discipline just spills into every other aspect of your life. Another thing that I suggest that has really impacted me in a positive way is scoring yourself. And I know that sounds really like stingent and like kind of, I don't know the word for it, but all I can think about is this right now. It sounds very like strict, I guess. But scoring yourself has been really helpful. Again, that's another habit I took out of the 12-week yearbook that I want you guys to read if you can. But scoring yourself is really helpful, or not even scoring yourself, just looking back on what you've done. So for example, if I say I'm going to do all these things in a week's time, and then I get to next week and I never look back on last week to see if it actually happened, because life moves really fast. So I never look back and said, oh, did I actually accomplish this? Did I actually do what I said I was going to do? Then how do I know it actually got done? Right? Like, you really don't know. You kind of know, like, dang, I didn't go to the gym, or dang, I didn't write that journal entry, or dang, I didn't send that email, I didn't make that business proposition. You kind of know that you didn't, or you did do things, but you don't really see it. So I would say writing down the things you want to get done. Like, okay, on Monday I plan to do this. Tuesday I plan to do this. Like, where's my agenda? For example, I have this planner. It's called the Day Designer, and I love this thing. So I will leave a link down below. But I love this thing, and you can do things by months, but you can also do them daily. So I have my daily habits here, and I check them off every day if I did or didn't do something. And I would recommend something like that, because then you can look back and say, dang, last week I really struggled with waking up, or last week I really struggled with editing. How do I do better this week? So I feel like that also kind of builds discipline, because you can look and say, okay, I struggled with that. What is a habit I didn't do or promise I didn't keep to myself, and how can I do it different this time? Like, some of us don't even know when we're failing because there's no track record. Like, there's no way of seeing if we're failing when we do stuff. But if you have a way of looking and saying like, hey, I wanted to get these things done in order to accomplish this, but I didn't do these things. And I know if I didn't do these things, I'm definitely not going to accomplish this. So now that I know that, how can I pivot and start implementing them more? I don't want you to feel like your life has to be very strict for you to get things done, but it does. There has to be some kind of order, right? That's what discipline is. There has to be some kind of order and some kind of structure, because if you're just going with the wind, we're going to spend so much time on social media, so much time on Netflix, on YouTube, so much time just like living it up, and then you're going to look back and not really accomplish the things you want to accomplish. So there has to be some kind of structure, and I think that's like the heartbreaking thing for me. Sometimes I'll see people just living it up, even though they're not really fulfilled or happy. Like, you can tell by different fruits in their life. And then they look back and they regret not doing certain things that would have been so easy to implement if they just had a plan, and if they just were disciplined enough to do that at that time. So I would definitely say, for me, having a plan works. Building daily habits is life-changing, and I really like it. And then there's also days like on my Sabbath, on Saturday, there's no habits, because we just flowing and we're just doing it. So you can figure out what works for you and do it that way. Okay, so something else you need to do to be more disciplined is create a plan. So some of us know the Bible verse that says, without a plan, the people perish. And that goes into our individual lives as well. Like, a lot of times we need to create plans on things we want to do, and then we can abide by those plans, and it can help us kind of stay on track. Not just saying, oh, I'm gonna do something and think it's just gonna happen. Like, you set a goal, so it's just gonna happen, but actually creating a plan towards that goal and daily habits. So I want to be really practical here, because I feel like this is very, very important. Also, if you want to learn more about habits, I recommend reading the 12-week year, just to learn more about building habits and accomplishing so much more in a year's time. But just to kind of simplify it and bring it down in terms of discipline and in terms of this video, creating a plan. So for example, if you say, I want to be more disciplined and I want to work out. So it has been proven that it takes around 21 or so days to build a habit. Things are not just going to come to you because you say it out loud, although that is good, but you kind of have to build that habit and build that discipline in that area. You have to create a plan. So maybe you might say, okay, I want to be more consistent with the gym, so I want to work out 3 days a week. Perfect, that's great. But that's not good enough. You have to be very, very specific with your habits and with your goals to actually get things done. What that would look like is being way more specific with like time, place, who you're gonna check in with, and what it looks like, right? So for example, instead of just saying, I'm gonna work out 3 days a week, you would say, I'm gonna work out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 p.m. after work at Planet Fitness, and I'm going to text my best friend after every workout. I'm also going to tell my best friend that if she hasn't gotten a text from me by 7 p.m. on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, that she needs to call me to see why I never texted her, right? So just being way more specific, or even setting timers. Timers are such a good habit. Like, I do that all the time, right? So setting an alarm, like, hey, Alexa, hey, Siri, set a timer for this, set an alarm for this, set a reminder for this. You want to basically build habits to then after a while, things will come more innate. But initially you kind of want to build systems, right? You want to build systems to where you don't really have that much room to create excuses for yourself, because we're really good at doing that. Comfortability is the thing. So you want to kind of create systems that you don't have too much room to make excuses for yourself. And things are kind of planned, so it leaves less room for error until things become more natural. So yeah, creating a plan is super important. So like, even like another kind of tangible example is if you say, okay, I want to wake up at 6 a.m. every morning. I want to have quiet time with the Lord. Maybe I want to, read a book in the morning. So you have to kind of work backwards. Like, if I want to wake up at 6, how many hours of sleep do I want to get? Okay, I want to get 8 hours of sleep. That means I need to go to bed by like 10 o'clock. In order to go to bed by 10 o'clock, what time do I need to be showered? What time do I need to have dinner? What time do I need to, when I'm coming from work, like when do I need to make sure that things are kind of simmered down so that I'm in a relaxed mode? You need to plan these things out. Just saying you want to wake up at 6 a.m. is not going to get you up when that alarm goes off, sis. It ain't. Like, you have to have a plan, and that will basically like brew discipline out of you, because over time, that's just going to become your natural nature. Even just creating that plan, you're going to be so much more further along than you just saying like in your head, like, oh, I want to be more healthy. Like, you're going to be so much further along. You're going to have a plan, and that kind of empowers you because you feel empowered. Like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Like, I'm not just winging this. Like, I got this. Like, you're going to feel so much more empowered. I know one thing my husband always says in pertaining to fitness in his industry, he's like, yeah, people, when they get to their rock bottom, then they'll come. And that's just really sad, right? And a lot of times that's true. A lot of times when people hit the rock bottom, then they'll be like, oh, I need to do better. But if you're disciplined now, you really don't have to ever hit rock bottom in whatever areas that might be. And you can start doing the things now that you want to do. So this is my warning to you. Like, I don't want you to have to hit rock bottom to start making a change. So these are just little things you could do now to build the habit of becoming more disciplined. And I promise you, your life will be so much more fulfilling because you're going to be so proud of yourself and so much more confident in your abilities to be like the most optimized human being that you can be and to accomplish all that you were created to accomplish. So my prayer and my hope for you is that you will learn how to keep promises to yourself, and that you won't be hard on yourself if sometimes you miss, but you can look back, redirect, and just keep going and keep getting better, because we're not perfect and we're not called to be perfect, but we are called to try. We're called to try and grow and not be complacent, right? So that is my hope for you. I hope that you got some like excitement, that you want to go out and be disciplined now and get things done. Hopefully this video encouraged you in whatever ways it needed to encourage you. If you have any questions or anything like that, definitely make sure to comment them down below. Any suggestions, leave them down below as well. I would love to hear them. But yeah, y'all, that is it. Leave any questions, comments, or suggestions down below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Give this video a thumbs up, turn notification bell, all that good stuff. And most importantly, say it with me. Do not forget that your life is totally worth living. I love you, and I'll see you next week. Bye.